we were told the following. If President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone. We're human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart, that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Dean's officer said, well, we all did it. You have to treat us all the same. So we were out in the halls, and nobody would go into the office. And at about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, they announced that those 5 people plus 3 of the demonstration leaders were suspended. Well, the next morning, we really knew it was going to happen. We set our tables up right in front of Sproul Hall steps. I guess I was one of the more noisy people, so a dean came up to me, and he asked me to identify myself, and I refused to identify myself. And he said if I didn't identify myself, I would be arrested. Well, it wasn't the first time that I had been threatened with arrest. 2 policemen took me under the arms. I went limp. They dragged me into the police car. And before I got into the police car, it was surrounded with people. It was 2 minutes to 12. There's this commotion going on. Some people are joining in. Some people are stopping to watch. This police car is going nowhere.
I just did what any of my fellow students, or my fellows in all these organizations, would have done. So I was just singled out. Chance selected me. I'm no martyr.
I found I couldn't understand why people were prohibited from speaking in the plaza. And if this demonstration around this police car was some way to indicate it was wrong, well, it seemed like a good idea to me. I didn't like the idea of seizing a police car very much, but it was certainly a peaceful seizing. People began to speak.
The only reason that I took part in this is because I like Cal very much. I'd like to see it better.
And they'd stand on the car. People were very careful about the car. People would take their shoes off and gently climb up on the car. They moved from the hood of the car up onto the roof of the car. Then the argument raged. Are you with us or are you against us? I wasn't either. I was watching and listening to speeches.
There was an open microphone on top of the police car, and anybody who wanted to speak could sign up on a list, and they had 3 minutes to say anything they wanted to say. And hour after hour, people were getting up and orating. And it was like an explosion of ideas.
You know, Aristotle said, if you are not a citizen, you are either a beast or a god. Now, I ask you a very simple question.
People start talking, bringing in the Greek philosophers, bringing in the French Revolution, talking about all these ideas, constitutional liberties, as if they had meaning.
Late at night, there were some fraternity people who came down, and there was some confrontation. They were talking and bringing it up, but I remember they were heckling from the back, so one of the people on the mic says, come on up. They got one of the fraternity boys to come up and to say his thing on the mic, and by the time he got there, he forgot why he was against it, and his friends started booing him.
It really was a political awakening, because there was a political issue here, and we were all part of this. We weren't observing it on television. We were actually part of deciding what would happen, as was the university administration. No one from the university administration came to speak. No one came to present any reasoned point of view about why the arrest had occurred or why the rules restricting political speech were justifiable. Nothing.
I ended up sitting in that police car for 32 hours, and at the maximum time, there were as many as 6,000 people sitting down around the police car. At various points when the police arrests were threatened, people didn't run away. More people came and sat down, and people were trying to avoid it, felt they had to sit down. People were saying, join us, join us.
The police to make some statement, some request for them to leave the building, but nothing was said. The committee's version keeps emphasizing that the students were warned. It's true the police asked a few individual students to leave, but there was never a general warning to the students. No hint was given of what was to come. Out of the sight of the students, the police began uncoiling the fire hoses. The students tried to demonstrate their nonviolent intentions by sitting down. Some witnesses heard a policeman shout something to this effect: "So you want some of this, do you? Well, you're going to get it." And then the water was turned on. That's what really happened. But here's the committee's version of what happened.
When one officer warns that fire hoses will have to be used if the crowd does not disperse, the demonstrators become more and more unruly. One student provides the spark that touches off the violence when he leaps over a barricade, grabs a police officer's nightstick, and begins beating the officer over the head. As the mob surges forward to storm the doors, a police inspector orders that the fire hoses be turned on.
Well, you surely know that
en el cielo. Son luces de bengala como en las películas.
¿Qué dices?
Mira, ven. ¡Están disparando, mamá! ¡Papá, ven! ¡Tus hermanos!
¡Quítense de la ventana! ¡Que se quiten de la ventana! ¡Apártate! ¡Apártate! ¡Quítate!
¡Papá, nos están matando! ¡Nos están matando!
¡Quítate, hija! ¡Quítate! ¡Quítate! ¿Qué? ¿Qué?
Papá, ¿qué vamos a hacer si no vienen los muchachos? Está allá afuera.
Calma, calma. Tranquilo. Vamos a mi cuarto, vamos. Apúrense a mi cuarto. Vamos. Rápido. Al piso, al piso, al piso.